Hello and welcome back to the Journeymen. We're joining you just after the third game week of Champions League fixtures, minus Sean Finch Meehan again. He's becoming Leo McGuinn-esque liability. But anyway, the standout result of that evening, we might as well jump straight into it, was Manchester United's embarrassing defeat to Istanbul Başakşehir here, who had until today not scored a goal in Champions League football. Dan, I don't know how much of the game you caught, but the defending for Demba
Oh my God!
was opening goal.
It was it's so weird because Demba was about 15 yards in his own half, and there was no one within 20 yards of him. Like the furthest back United player was barely on the edge of the Istanbul box. It looked like it was the 95th minute and they were chasing an equaliser. It's so I can't I don't understand it.
You'd go mad at like an under 9 C team for defending like that. Like,
I've never seen anything like that in at this level of football.
and then obviously the second goal wasn't as bad because there were United defenders in the box, but it wasn't great. Like, I mean, literally one step over from Demba and the whole box opened up for Vizca.
And if Vizca wasn't there was another player there for the ball too.
Like for the first goal, like I don't know where to blame. Like I don't know where to put the blame because obviously
whose role is that? Like,
obviously Solskjaer has told his centre backs to push out ahead against weaker teams, so to say. But surely Harry Maguire, as the main defender, the one who's in and out every week, has to realise that he's the one who sets the line. And if he sees Axel Tuanzebe beside him on the edge of their box, surely he has to realise that United are absolutely exposed at the other end.
If you see every other defender leaving to go up the pitch, if nobody is listening, if nobody's listening to your calls, just you need someone to stay back yourself. Like I've never seen a team do that and not keep one fullback on the halfway line.
Yeah, like the rule of thumb is that like if the right back goes forward, the left back tucks in and kind of covers for him.
You always leave someone halfway who has a bit of pace on them to chase back.
And it was like something from Benny Hill watching Demba being chased by Nemanja Matic for
what is
like
he, 36 years old? Like Demba is old.
It's just like anyone else. Like
that is a team of old men.
He caught in about 3 seconds. Like
Demba, Martin Skirtle, Raphael. It's just the Premier League classics.
It's a team of Premier League washed up Premier League players that were never that good.
They were never that good.
Demba was good. Anyway, after last week's win against Leipzig, as a United fan, I just looked at these two games and said, right, win these two games, 6 points here, and that's qualification. The only way would be that Leipzig win one and PSG win the other, and then they're both 6 points behind. But the chances of Leipzig overturning a 5-goal head-to-head were no, there were no chances. But now I would have genuine concerns about United going through. First of all, I don't think that they will beat Başakşehir here at home. Well, they should, but I have no confidence.
It's one of those where, like, on paper, you're like, yeah, of course they're going to get through. They have 6 points after 3 games, but there's a shakiness that you kind of worry about. And United are very up and down right now. You know, there was a lot of great talk of them after, they hammered Newcastle, they beat PSG, then they have a really underwhelming game at home against Chelsea. They hammer Leipzig, then they lose at home to Arsenal in the first time in 12-something years, and now this.
14.
14,
and in those 2 games against Arsenal and Chelsea, like the chances they had were so scarce. Like there were 6 across the 2 games.
Today, I think it was only 2 shots.
Yeah, they were so bad.
And like United nearly tied it up at the end. What would have been an own goal too.
That's
about it.
That was the only time United had a bit of flash of something good, and that was when Donny van de Beek came on. I, for the life of me, I can't understand why he isn't getting into. Obviously, he started tonight, but that's just been an issue that's been hanging over United since the Crystal Palace defeat.
Yeah,
why Van de Beek hasn't started in the Premier League.
He's not being kept out by anyone. Like United's midfield has not performed.
Like Bruno Fernandes has scored a few, and he was good against Newcastle. But he hasn't been at the same standard that he was after the lockdown last year or before. Paul Pogba has been.
He's been woeful. I usually like to defend Pogba for the most part. I think he is a really good player, and I think the media, for some reason, really hates him. But no, this season he's been bad.
And like, okay, they were terrible against Arsenal, and I think Arsenal fully merited that win. I hold my hands up and fully,
Yeah.
like, absolutely deserve it. But if you take away the penalty that Pogba gave away, where Bellerin was running towards the corner flag in the corner of the box, they didn't have many chances, and I didn't see them creating many either in the last 20 minutes. That penalty handed them an easy 3 points when it probably would have just ended 0-0 like the Chelsea game otherwise. It's hard to take, and I can't see how Solskjaer stays in the job for too long, because it seems to be a constant circle of 1 step forward and 2 steps back. You get
Will he still be here
moments.
come the next Champions League game? Because we have an international break, and that's when the sackings happen.
Yeah, and see, I was thinking about this, like, it's an international break, at least they have time to regroup. But I was saying this at the last international break after the Tottenham game, and then they did regroup, and then they go back. And Pochettino showed on MNF there this week.
He's ready.
He knows a lot about football. He's a slick guy, and he knows what he's talking about.
He's begging to come back.
Like it just seems so obvious. The one thing that annoys me is we won't talk about United for too long for those ABUs out there. But I suppose everyone enjoys talking about United these days anyway.
Come on, it's great fun.
But the one thing that annoys me is that, like, Pochettino would do well with that team. Like, it's not a bad squad. Like, any manager in the world would like to have Pogba, Fernandes, and Van de Beek in the midfield. Like, it's not a bad midfield. Martial, Rashford, and Greenwood are all good strikers on their day. Wan-Bissaka is one of the best defensive right backs in the world. Harry Maguire cost £85 million, but he's not very good.
He's a project.
but he's not as bad. Like, if he came to Old Trafford for £30 million, I don't think anyone would really say something bad.
He'd be like, whatever. He's a decent defender.
And Victor Lindelof can be good. I think with a good manager, that's good. And obviously Alex Telles hasn't not really got a chance yet.
It's not his fault.
That squad is decent. Better than a lot of people give it credit for. And I think with a really good manager, it could go places.
Absolutely. I mean, Pochettino has been crying out for it recently, but he's been available for so long. Like, they need to just snap him up, because they've passed on, they passed on, like, they could have sacked Ollie and taken Ancelotti over the summer. They didn't. There are a lot of good managers around, and they've just kind of they need to go for Pochettino, because he's the best that there is right now.
I think it's like this. They've kind of like persisted with him, like, that he has to succeed. He's this club legend, and it would look bad to sack him or something. Or maybe it's the fact
this is the perfect week to sack him, because it won't be. No, this is the perfect week to sack him, because he won't be the most maligned club legend in the media right now. It's fucking Ryan Giggs.
Yeah, true, with Ryan Giggs.
Yeah, he's never getting the gig now. Jesus.
It's and I think, like, it makes sense, because whatever happens against Everton, they've lost 3 of their 4 home games. They've scored 2 goals. They've conceded 12. Or 10. Still not great. They've won their 2 away games. Their long unbeaten run on the road came to an end tonight. It probably will continue now on their new losing streak, will now continue on Saturday. They'll give Everton that confidence boost. And then they come back and they have a home game against West Brom. And really, like, is there a better way to come in for a manager than 2 weeks on an international break and then playing West Brom at home, who look like they're not going to win a game this season?
It's the perfect, like, betting in period.
Because if Solskjaer doesn't go, I'm kind of worried, because they're top of the group with 6 points, but even if they beat Istanbul and PSG beat Leipzig, then they're 9 and the 2 of them are 6, and they have to play both of them, and I could easily see them losing both of those games. It's
not safe.
It's very worrying,
which it should be, because you beat the 2 best teams. Like, it was literally win tonight and it's over.
Qualification should have been in the bag.
Yeah.
Like, you've guaranteed head-to-head against... So even if you finish level with them, you're guaranteed. So it really should have just been beat Istanbul home and away and wrap it up. And then don't worry about them games. Play the reserves and focus on the league for a couple of weeks. Focus on the league,
because
really congested.
Because I'm looking at United's fixtures here, and, they're probably going to... Maybe, like, who knows what happens in the next few games. They probably will have to go all out for the final game away to Leipzig. And then it's only 4 days later, they're playing the Manchester Derby. They need,
it is the most Manchester United thing at the moment to do what they've just done, to beat PSG and Leipzig, and then to put in a performance like that. It's embarrassing, and I'm just forlorn at this stage. It's just a constant circle of. I'm sure you've gone through it in your like in the Roy Hodgson days and stuff.
Oh God, Hodgson, even Rodgers, yeah. It's just this
It's
kind
just
of
a constant
you
cycle.
always feel like you're on the verge. You get a couple of good results. You feel like you're on the verge of finally clicking, and then something horrible happens. You lose 6-1 to
That's the
Stoke.
problem because it's the good results like the Leipzigs, the PSGs, going back to last season, the City home and aways that they give you a bit of hope, and then it's just snuffed out like that because
it's so
they do
quick.
something stupid against a smaller team. I'm not saying that Arsenal are a smaller team, and that's the stupid social media thing. But in general, like the way Arsenal had gone into that game, they should have won that game.
Yeah.
Like, the way the two clubs are approaching that.
And it's a home games against Chelsea and Arsenal, taking 1 point from 6.
Yeah, and barely had a shot in anger, and that highlights it because Arsenal and Chelsea weren't exactly offensive in either of those games. They sat in and did what United tried to do to teams in big games, and they hadn't a clue how to break them down. At the last 15 minutes against Arsenal, they were clueless, absolutely clueless. And now they head into Everton. Now, to be fair, and I've highlighted this a lot, the away record in the Premier League are bizarre.
Yeah.
I guess it's to do with no fans, but like there have been more away wins than home wins after 7 weeks, which I'm sure has never happened before, and by a considerable amount as well. But I'd be worried. And we're going to move on to Everton, who have derailed slightly. Lost 2 in a row and drew at Liverpool. Obviously, that's not too bad a result, but
I don't know if it's that surprising. Like, they weren't good performances. Obviously, Southampton, Newcastle aren't great teams, but they were never going to keep up the title run pace.
It's surprising maybe how quickly they've fallen off. Like you thought maybe they'd go through like 10 games and still be looking good, but they've been exposed in the last 2 weeks. And Southampton, to be fair, have looked excellent. They look like the goals they scored against Villa last week were all world class. It's the only PPV game that I've seen. Like, I wouldn't have been too annoyed if I paid for
that. It's James Ward-Prowse has some leg on him.
Yeah, he's probably the best free kick taker in the league, to be fair.
Yeah. I'm looking at the stats from this here, and it looks like Villa dominated the game too. 19 shots.
It's a bizarre league, and I can see that's the annoying thing. Going back to United for a minute, like this is a time when an outsider can win the league. Like
the league's going to be won 85 points. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't see United getting anywhere near to 70 points, let alone 80.
And no one has looked that consistent. Even this is the craziest stat I've seen all weekend. Up at Liverpool have the second most goals conceded in the league this season, only behind West Brom. They're top of the table.
They've already conceded more goals than Chelsea did in 2004.
Yeah. And yet they've played 3 Champions League games and haven't conceded a goal.
They look well. They're obviously true in the Champions League now.
Not 9 points. Yeah. Literally draw one more game, and it's basically.
And with Midtjylland to play again, that should be a 3 points. So they're there. They struggled over the line in the last 2 league games a little bit.
Yeah.
And we're on the subject. So Thiago Jota has been a revelation.
It's I was happy with the signing. I wasn't expecting this.
No, 2 winners against West Ham and Sheffield United, where Liverpool might not have broken through because they were toiling. I know they had goals disallowed in both of them. And then obviously a hat-trick and a winner against Midtjylland, or the first goal.
Second goal against Midtjylland, I think. But that was the first. It was the first goal.
It was the first.
It was a header. Yeah, I remember it now. But I mean, the hat-trick last night against Atalanta, away to Atalanta was supposed to be a tough game.
Probably up there, either that or Ajax away was the toughest game in the group.
And they just walked them. He's he's so much quicker than you'd think. He's incredibly two-footed as well. I think he's listed as a right footer, but he's taken more shots on his left in the past 2 years because he's just you can't tell. He's just really good.
He's deceptively young as well because
he's only 23. I thought he was
since late Wolves came up, and he's only 23.
I thought he was 25, 26.
Yeah. But Liverpool obviously. They're games that would worry you, the performance maybe a little bit, but the games that they won when everyone else is slipping up. So I think Liverpool are going well for where they are, especially in the first couple of. Obviously, the big test now is Sunday.
Coming up against Man City, that's if Liverpool win it, what does that put? It puts them a good bit ahead, and it's a big game this early on. Like it can be a statement game.
Obviously, City haven't looked too hot. They're
City haven't been like what they squeezed past Sheffield. They drew with West Ham. They just about beat Arsenal. They drew with Leeds. They got hammered by Leicester. Like they,
at home.
yeah.
And then like it's just I don't know. In Europe again, they're coasting through their group, but if they didn't, there'd be serious problems because that group is a piss take. Really.
Yeah, it always is for them. They always get it.
It's actually it's incredible how they do it. They're not even the top seed, and they somehow manage to get poured out. Like it's just.
But yeah, what I'm looking at here is like
staying on the Liverpool subject for a second.
Yeah.
There was an incident in Saturday's game that was brought up a lot in the media on Saturday, and then there's an incident in Sunday's game with Tottenham and Brighton. There, of course, Mohamed Salah's penalty win against Sheffield United and Harry Kane's penalty win.
West Ham, but yeah.
Oh, sorry, mixed up the teams. It's mixed up 2-1 victories from coming from behind. So Mohamed Salah's penalty win against West Ham and Harry Kane's against Brighton. Harry Kane, I'd like to say before we go into this, is a dirty cheat, and away you go then.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. But Salah's penalty is soft, but it's a penalty. You know, he gets kicked and he goes down. The kick doesn't put him down. But how many times have we heard pundits say, "Oh, if you don't go down, you don't get the foul"? It's obvious at this point. Nobody in their right mind is staying up there because they know they're not getting it if they do. They're not going to turn around and say, "Ref, you kicked me." And in fact, the ref wasn't going to give it until the defender. Jeez, I forget his name's out of my mind right now. Until the defender literally looked at the ref and said, "Ref, I didn't do anything," and the ref was like, "Wait a minute." But the amount of abuse he got from like particularly Match of the Day calling him a cheater, when then 24 hours later, Harry Kane doesn't do the same thing. Harry Kane doesn't get contact and then fall over. Harry Kane dives in. Harry Kane attempts to injure Adam Lallana basically, and like somehow gets a penalty.
That footage down, like you see Harry Kane go like that.
Yeah,
to see where Lallana is.
But 2 weeks ago, they played West Ham, the 3-3 game, and Harry Kane did the same thing at the end of that game to Aaron Cresswell, and a foul was given against him.
I remember Gabriel Bongohor was sent off for doing that to Ryan Rooney. Like he got underneath him, Rooney landed on his neck, and
you get sent off in rugby for that.
Yeah,
like it's
like it would be a sending off in rugby if you went up for a high ball with someone and then let them fall off your back.
And what I hate is, Salah's getting in trouble while Kane is being called clever, and then. But not it's not even that they're comparable incidents. Kane's is so much worse. Like he's no other player in the world is if Salomon Rondon did that, he's getting called a thug by the media.
If the likes of Luis Suarez or Diego Costa did that, like that would be obviously you wouldn't see it as much because it's in Spain, but and then this issue that it didn't even look like it was in the box. Like where Lallana hits Kane looks like it's outside the box. Like it's.
I think Kane's foot is on the line. Like,
Yeah, but like surely it's from where the foul happens rather than where Kane's foot is. Like,
I
don't
really know, but the on the line in the box, whatever. That is a problem, but it's just not a foul. No, like Lallana is straight up just going for a header.
It's a free kick and a yellow card the other way. I think. Like,
it's 100%, and because you see this all the time, you see like goalkeepers take their goal kicks to the striker. The striker sees the defender going for it and he backs into the defender because he can't win the header, and it's always given as a free out. But when it's Kane, it's a penalty.
And like it wasn't like you see that sometimes you get the soft free where the defender's like jumping without their arms, but like they jump at the same time and then they just go into them. But Lallana's in the air and Kane just walks into him. Like.
I think it's pretty obvious. Lallana moves from the ground straight up. Kane moves across. Who's the one initiating the contact there? It's not Lallana. He's only going for the ball.
Yeah.
And it's not just it's not the move itself or the fact that a penalty was given. It's the attitude towards it from the media saying, it's clever play. Yeah. No, it's not. It's dirty play.
And then we have another English striker on Sunday as well, Callum Wilson winning the penalty.
Also getting called clever for. No, Callum Wilson's penalty was basically exactly Salah's. He got kicked and he went down when he didn't need to. But again, the difference is Wilson gets called a deft forward, clever play, doing what he has to win, and Salah is a dirty cheat.
Yeah.
They couldn't be more obvious about it.
Like the bias against foreign players in the media isn't exactly like it's not unknown. Like you look back at when Martial got sent off for slapping Lamela, and then Lamela is a dirty cheat, and he is but I wouldn't say that it's the Latin in him as Graham Souness, but
Yeah.
I would say that it's more he's a dirty cheat. It doesn't really matter what
Where
country
he's
he's
from,
from.
yeah.
Like there's plenty of bad eggs in the English game. That you
It's
don't have to say that's the Latin in him.
it is it's embarrassing how comfortable they feel being that open about it. Being like, oh, he's a cheater because he's from this country or because he looks like this, and it's so obvious. Like they do not
Like
hide it
even the
well.
hate that Paul Pogba gets, I'm sure that's great.
Oh, absolutely.
Like obviously Pogba is a flashy midfielder, and he probably like the way he acts on Instagram probably gets a lot of hate from right wing, right
But
leaning people. But
Zinedine
I don't
Zidane was
think
a
English
flashy
players get the
midfielder.
same.
Like
Mm,
it's ridiculous. It
it's
is like
it's nonsensical. Like the Premier League is a global league. It's about 10% English. Like I don't know why they have this thing. And then one of the few English players that has risen to the top of that tree in Raheem
Raheem
Sterling gets
Sterling,
it
yeah.
worse than anyone. Like,
Yeah.
but then again, it's the color of his skin. It's
Yeah,
not.
exactly. That's why, yeah, the one player that, like, the one English player you do see consistently get called a diver by the media is Dele Alli.
Mm.
And I'm sorry, they also call Wilfred Zaha a diver once he started playing for the Ivory Coast.
No, there's serious problems.
Yeah.
And I hope that Harry Kane gets called up on what he tries to do in future games. And if it, the Spurs were awful, and
Yeah, they
to
were
be
really
fair,
bad.
the things probably even them out because I would have thought VAR usually would have given a foul for the Højbjerg tackle for 1-1.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been
I thought
surprised
it
if
was,
that was given. The Solly March, was it?
yeah
Yeah,
on Højbjerg, yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
But also, Leandro Trossard should have had a penalty.
Yeah,
Like, Matt
true.
Doherty
Like
pulled
there's
them back, like, and they
late,
reviewed that.
so I suppose it's 2-1 in Brighton's
Yeah.
favour in terms of bad decisions. Which is bad when you have video footage like that. There's still three decisions you're like,
All three of these incidents are things you look at in real time and go, yeah, I can see how the ref missed that. But with
yeah,
the advantage of replays, you should not. They were
and
all.
slow
It
motion
was
and every
three.
other technology.
I think the tackle is still debatable, but the two penalty incidents are very clear if you actually just
Yeah,
watch a
black and
replay.
white. It's
Yeah.
black and white. Going back to Liverpool, so as a Liverpool fan, how confident are you going into the game with City? It's probably the best time to be playing City. They're not on
I'm
a full tilt.
I'm kind of always a little confident going at the City just because aside from like the anomalies after we'd won the league last season or a few years ago when Mane got sent off for booting
Yeah,
Ederson, we usually put up don't just put up a good fight, we usually win or at
yeah,
least get a draw. And honestly, even though I do think we can win this pretty well, I'd probably take a draw just because we're ahead of them, and getting a draw keeps us the same distance ahead, and they're the only contenders to me, the only real challengers.
yeah.
So,
Because
but
I
yeah,
don't see, I don't see anyone else coming near. Like Tottenham are way too like their start has been very easy.
yeah.
The only tough game was United, and obviously that United was a shambles. Arsenal definitely not. Chelsea no. Um, and obviously United are nowhere near title contenders. So I think it will come down to City and Liverpool again. So avoiding defeat would be excellent for Liverpool.
Yeah, I think they
City,
can do that. City haven't. Neither team has been absolutely at their best.
yeah. On the flip side, it's probably the best time for City to play Liverpool. Like they're Van Dijk shaky in the league defensively. If City wanted to play Liverpool, now is the time. Well, okay,
Yeah,
when Adrian was still in goal would be
yeah,
better, but like it's as good a time as ever to play Liverpool from a City perspective. But it's just hard to see them taking advantage of it the way they've been playing recently.
yeah. And particularly now with Liverpool have that extra. Like Liverpool have a genuinely pretty good stacked forward line now. It's not just the front three.
Yeah,
You've got the front three, and then you've got Thiago Jota, who's in crazy form. You've got Shaqiri, who's playing really well at the moment,
he's
and you've
seen
got
passes that I didn't think he was capable of seeing.
yeah,
To be fair, like
he's making passes that like no one else on the team is making.
mm,
And I think there's a genuine question going into this game: is Jota or Firmino? Because obviously Jota's the one in form. Firmino's been in really poor form, but he is that kind of
Klopp's
big
obviously
game
just
player.
kind of defended Firmino there recently, saying
Oh
that
yeah, because
he's
I do hate that a new player can't be praised without it being used to malign someone else.
mm,
Because it happened. The same thing happened as soon as Thiago started playing. Was playing great. People are like, oh, that's Wijnaldum out of the team. Who cares about Wijnaldum? Like, come on, it's a squad. We're
mm.
basically playing 2 games per week for the rest of the year. They're all going to play a ton of football. But I am interested to see who gets the start against City, and if maybe both of them do and Klopp goes with like a 4-2-3-1, I think that's only on the table if Thiago is back, and I'm not sure he will be.
It's an interesting one because obviously Firmino in terms of Liverpool's attacking or defending is important and their general play, but how do you leave someone out that scored so many goals in like?
It's
I suppose it does come down to what they have at their disposal in midfield to shore it up.
And I think there's also another question of who's better off the bench with 25 minutes to go, because I think Jota can be a great impact there too. A few of his goals have come as a sub. But it is the big game of the weekend.
Every tight game, he's come off the bench to win it when legs are a bit tired, I suppose. But they're good options to have. Like,
we've never had this before.
No, like the risk with Liverpool over the last 2 seasons was what happens if one of Mane, Salah, or Firmino gets injured.
It was always what happens if one of the front three or Van Dijk gets injured, and it had to be Van Dijk that got injured.
When you have a good front or backup to the front
and
three.
Then Fabinho steps in, looks good, and gets injured.
Just a quick note on defensive strikers, since you're talking about Firmino, and want to pay tribute to David McGoldrick, who is retired from international football today. I'm very, very upset. For a striker who scored 1 goal for his country, he touched my heart in a way that I didn't think he could, and I'm devastated, to be honest.
He's going to make this upcoming international break even harder to watch, because I love to watch him.
Like, I'm trying to ignore the fact that there's an international break again next week. I suppose I'll just quickly mention that Ireland are playing 3 pointless games. When during a pandemic, they're sending players around the world again. And Ireland are now going to England without the one striker that could always be relied upon to hold the ball up and bring others into play. And it's going to be ugly, I think. And I'm sad to see McGoldrick go on the back of what was a great performance personally, but to lose to Slovakia like that was his last performance. It's sad.
It's a disappointing.
And I just want to pay my respects to Didzy.
Good. I hopefully this getting out of the international light will help him kind of prolong his club career. That's mostly why players do it.
Yeah, you'd imagine like the likes of Jamie Vardy or whatever, who's obviously flourishing at the moment.
That's all. Yeah, David McGoldrick, the new Vardy. Let's push that.
All right. Yeah, he's going to break 100 goals in a couple of seasons. A happy-go-lucky kind of story. I suppose we're talking about the Premier League again. We might as well talk about Leicester and Vardy, who are very bizarre. Like, as you said many times, Brendan Rodgers' teams look like a team that does well until expect to do well and then start doing badly because they bottle it. They've been excellent away from home. I think they've won all 4. I think they've won every game, including Europa League games away from home. At home, not so good. Lost to Villa and got hammered by West Ham.
Yeah.
And conceded 2 goals against Burnley, which I know they won the game, but that's
come on.
Do you think Leicester if Leicester don't get top 4 this season, serious questions have to be asked about Brendan Rodgers' team's mentalities? Like,
yeah, this is yet another season where it's like it's wide open for them to do so. So like, just get it, get your act together, actually do it. I think Rodgers it was yesterday. I think Rodgers said, after they won their last game, after they beat City, Arsenal was the last big one. He said, oh well, they'll just say I'm lucky because I'm a British manager and they don't give us credit. I'm like, pal, what are you talking about? He compared himself to like Bielsa and to Arteta. They've both won trophies. Like, they've both won things. You haven't.
Yeah. Apart from what Rodgers did with Celtic, which literally Pigeon could do. Like,
come on. But what are you talking about? Oh, I'm British, so nobody will give me respect. Look at Frank Lampard. He's only there because of who he is.
Actually, now you bring up Lampard. Lampard said something similar. He's like, I'm under different
Lampard
pressure.
loves to say stuff. Lampard's a proper brags ahead for
British,
that stuff. Like, come on, man. You've got the least pressure of any manager in the league.
Yeah. You look at the manager, what's the word? Roundabout that goes on in the Premier League. Like the Allardyces, the Pardews, the Hodgsons.
It's all Englishmen.
All of them are English managers that get jobs because they're English.
That's another funny point, is that Rodgers referring to himself as British when while he was at Celtic, he never did that. He specifically said the phrase, he is from not even Northern Ireland, but the north of Ireland. He specifically would not say that he was British. But now, again, what he was doing up at Celtic, he was pandering. What he's doing now, he's pandering.
Yeah. Look, I'm not a big fan of Brendan Rodgers ever since the Liverpool title run. He took credit for a lot of things that were just basically Luis Suarez doing well.
That's what he specifically complained about that in this interview. But like,
Did he?
come on, like my biggest problem with him at Liverpool was always his European record because it's abysmal. Like I only looked back at it today. His first season, he went out in the round of 32 of the Europa League to Zenit. His second season, no European football at all. It was the season they nearly won the league. Third season, they play against Ludogorets, Real Madrid, and Basel in the Champions League. They win one game. The home Ludogorets game is the only game they win. They go to the Europa League, immediately get knocked out by Besiktas. Then his final year, the one that he got sacked in, before he got sacked, he got a chance to play 2 Europa League games. He drew with Bordeaux and he drew with FC Sion. Then Klopp came in and took them to the final. He's so bad in Europe.
And I know he did get Celtic to the group stages of the Champions League, but I do recall them losing 5-0 at home to PSG and 7-0 to Barcelona on his runs. So how good is that really? Like, what's the point in qualifying for the Champions League if you're literally going to be spanked by every team you come up against? They did draw with Man City as far as I remember, but like that was City when they were literally losing to everyone, like Everton 4-0.
His time at Celtic, he did well, but it's like does anyone really care that much about Celtic?
What he did was normal for a Celtic manager. I mean, winning the league, obviously, but he did go unbeaten and he did win a treble or two. But, like, come on, you have a bigger budget than everyone else in the league. By far the best squad. What are you achieving? He also lost to Lincoln Red Imps in qualifying, which Celtic.
So, if Leicester
only on one leg, but still.
Look, Leicester have a lot of injuries right now. I can respect that. But every team is struggling right now. You got to take advantage. Because they haven't won Rodgers. Obviously, they took advantage a few years ago when they won the league. But like,
but not recently. Like, they never built on that, and they no one's kidding themselves. Like, they should have got Champions League last season. Like, United shouldn't be in the Champions League this year at all.
What was it? A 15-point lead
at Christmas. They were second when United played Liverpool. I'm pretty sure in January, and they slipped to fifth.
It's you gotta show that you've got some bottle, because right now I haven't seen anything from his teams.
This is a season where, like, okay, United and Arsenal are way behind and the top four, and there's got to be a new challenger to the top from the big, except for the big six in the top six or top four. And who are they playing at the weekend? Just really quickly. Wolves at home. It's a game I could easily see them losing 1-0 with no chances.
Yeah, and Wolves haven't been that great.
No, but they had a good win against Palace. It's just hard. Every team is going from like winning 2 in a row and then losing 2 in a row. The consistency in this league has been bizarre. I guess it's to do with the home form and everything else that goes.
I'm looking here at there's like Southampton. Southampton are in great form. Jesus, 4 wins and a draw in their last 5. But apart from that, there's no one.
The form table has been ripped up, I suppose, this year.
Yeah.
Is there any other big fixtures of the weekend? I don't think there is. Arsenal against Aston Villa, which shouldn't be a big fixture, but Villa, they've fallen off too.
There's going to be some big upset. Yeah, there will be a big upset, and it'll either be Arsenal, Villa, Chelsea, Sheffield, or West Brom, Spurs. One of the big 6 is going to lose.
Oh, well, I'd put money on United being that one team. I'd say one of the other big 6 are going to maybe lose. Right?
One of Chelsea, Spurs, or Arsenal, I think, will drop points. But now there's nothing.
To be fair, like they might be on 1 point, but like they ran Liverpool and City close in the last 2 weeks, and Arsenal. Right?
Yeah, they didn't look bad, but they just. I mean, I think it's what we've been saying about them since the start of the season. They don't have a striker.
No, they'll be very solid and they won't get hammered, but they just don't have the firepower to hurt teams or to hammer to score once.
I guess we'll see how Ryan Brewster does for them, but that's it's
a lot of pressure on young shoulders.
Yeah, well, he's got David McGoldrick there with him, so
I wouldn't ask for a better mentor, to be honest. But it does speak volumes that the current bottom 3 haven't won a game between them after 21 or 20 collective games.
It's really poor.
And obviously Fulham won by virtue of beating West Brom, who are in the bottom 3. So those four teams, I think, are way, way, way below everyone else. Burnley, I think, could finally meet their doom.
Yeah,
And
they
I don't think too many people will be upset about it. Like, they're just so boring.
It's kind of a weird team because, like, you have to respect them for what, because they're Ireland. Like,
Yeah,
they play horrible football that no neutral likes to watch. But if you're a
they
Burnley
don't
fan,
sign
you
many
love
players.
it. Yeah, yeah. I always feel the way with Ireland. Everyone always celebrates when we don't get into major competitions because they hate watching us. But you're like, when I'm watching Shane Duffy head the ball out of the box 30 times a game, I love it.
Yeah, it's kind of like very tribal thing. Like, you like it when it's yours, but
objectively,
when it's
objectively, it's boring, and nobody, you know, it's not good fun to watch. And if another team was doing it, you'd hate it. But you got to respect them for getting wins and like staying up playing like that, rather than, I see people saying, oh, Fulham are a great team because they try to play football. They're like Bournemouth. But if you're gonna lose playing football, you'd rather win playing like this kind of defensive game.
Yeah, and I just think that this year just doesn't seem to be the year to play that kind of football. Everyone seems to be scoring loads of goals, so I just think that's
too
why
many
they're
lapses in concentration. It's very hard to go 90 minutes without making a mistake like that, particularly
especially
this
with
year.
no home backing. Like, you think Burnley get grinding out a 1-0 win with the crowd at their backs, but like, there's no crowd to back them on when they're.
There's no one giving you that extra push into a tackle, and that I think that is very evident this year.
Yeah, and I think that Burnley will go down the way they've started, and I think it will be Burnley, Fulham, and West Brom, because I think Sheffield United might dig themselves out, but it's definitely one of those, or three of those four, because Jesus Christ, they're so bad. And the worst thing from United's perspective, and we will finish soon, is that United are only 3 points ahead of Fulham.
Yeah, like, they got the game in hand, but who's to say they'll win it?
It is against Burnley, but we'll see. It could get Burnley their lifeline the way
is that a 6-point game?
At the moment, it is. Like, genuinely, when they lost to Arsenal, I questioned whether they could get relegated this season.
Oh, man.
But no, obviously that won't happen. It just does. On one final note about Burnley, it does feel like they've had the same starting 11 since they came up for the first time in 2009. Like, that none of their players have changed. Obviously they have, but
I don't remember the last time I heard about a Burnley signing. Like, they just
remember they signed Robbie Brady and Jeff Hendrick during
the only like new Burnley player I can think of in the past few years feels like Nick Pope.
Yeah.
But like
Joe Hart for a while, who was terrible.
And you can see it. Like, Sean Dyche has gone mad of it. He's done all he can with this unit. Like, no manager, you can't sack him and bring in literally anyone else. They're not going to get any more out of these guys than he has, because it's not a good team. He's like, he knows what he's doing. He's a smart manager.
To keep a squad up with an aging Jay Rodriguez, Ashley Barnes, and Chris Wood for the last couple of seasons is genuinely very impressive.
It's every other team we look at that are like that, we say they're going down because they don't have a striker.
Yeah, but they just seem to get enough goals between them. Like, last year, Wood and Barnes were great, and I just don't see any other manager getting that out of them. Like, well, obviously he plays a style that suits the big burly.
It's also like, you think of every other like team down there, they've at least got a couple like star players, a couple clever like flashy players. They Burnley have none of that. They don't have like a Mateus Pereira. Like, they've got nothing, and they just keep going. So it'd be admirable to see them stay up, but I don't know if they can anymore.
I just like, there's only so many seasons you can put Jack Cork in the midfield and hope to stay up. So I think Burnley will go down, and I think they'll be joined by West Brom and Fulham, who between them are terrible. I just hope we do. Like, I know it's terrible for whatever club's involved, but I would like to see Derby's record broken this year.
Yeah,
it would be nice to.
Yeah, come on. Like, we love that stuff.
No one ever thought that record would be broken, but like this year, you'd hope that, like, with 3 teams without a win in the bottom 3.
Now it's one of those where, like, even one win from one of these teams and suddenly the record's not even interesting. Because like last season, or I think it was the season before, even I was looking at the goals conceded column, and I was thinking, geez, Liverpool could beat Chelsea's record here, and then all of a sudden, you've got one game where you concede 3 and it's over.
That's why these records are so long standing. Yeah. They're literally incredible. Like, 15 goals in the season for Chelsea and 11 points, like 1 win and 8 draws.
Like, those 2 records are. I think we'll have an invincible season before we see either of those records beaten again.
Definitely. Like, Liverpool were 1 game away from an invincible season the year they
the year they
lost
came
out.
second, which is
Yeah.
just the weirdest thing in the world. But yeah,
They would have been close to an invincible season if they'd beaten Watford or not. Invincible seasons are possible, but I just don't see how teams, especially the more attacking football
yeah,
now, how they keep out or concede less than 15 goals.
doesn't make sense. That's just a stupid record.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I suppose on that note, we're getting a bit off track. We might as well finish up. We might join you next week. I'm not saying that with much enthusiasm because it is an international break. Depends
Maybe,
on how exciting Liverpool and City was.
if we have like the three of us available, maybe we'll think of something fun to do.
Yeah, like if there's been a massive story, we can talk about Ryan Giggs' scandal a bit more, maybe.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. Maybe there'll be some news.
Yeah, no, I'm sure something will happen. Maybe Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will get sacked.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I don't think we'll be talking solely about Ireland's Nations League campaign against Wales and Bulgaria.
I really hope we aren't.
Yeah, I hope I have something better to do than talk about that.
Ireland could win all
beat
3
England,
games.
who knows?
Yeah. We could win all 3 games. I still don't want to talk about it. I'm tired.
If Ireland beat England and James McLean takes off burns a poppy in front of empty Wembley, I'd do a podcast.
I'd talk about that.
God, yeah, that would be nice. But anyway, God, that deserves to be in front of fans. Like, what a missed opportunity that is.
By the way, actually, sorry, just before we go, United game at the weekend, Matic didn't wear a poppy again. No news. No one. Oh, it's totally fine.
Weird.
I wonder what that's about.
I'd say the Gammons could be out in force after because Stoke are kind of irrelevant these days, and McLean is irrelevant. But like playing against England the day after the 11th of November,
in what is absolutely the most ill-advised friendly of all time. There's no reason for it. It's so dumb.
I have a few choice words for the FAI. Like they're fucking up our coefficient ahead of the World Cup qualifying draw. They're putting at risk our unbeaten record against England that stretches back to 1985, and they're also just putting Stephen Kenny under more pressure by probably losing that game, and then everyone wants him out, like all those fucking idiots. So
yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. Like, there's nothing to be gained from this friendly.
Anyway, I'm predicting 3-0 all draws. We're not going to score. We're not going to concede.
Yeah, well, 0-0 draw Ireland and England is kind of like, I think that's what they just agreed beforehand. It's probably in the contract and they signed off.
Play it safe.
That this has to be a draw. Just basically ever Ireland England game. But yeah, we'll get into that maybe if Ireland do something interesting
we'll see
over
what
the next
happens.
2 weeks. But we'll keep our eye out for something interesting in football, and we'll try to regroup with a 3-man panel, maybe even 4-man if Leo ever, just,
we get daring,
blesses us with his presence. And Scott, we've given up on you. You're now Owen McGrain to us. So from me and Dan, this has been a wonderful cathartic experience for me, who's just experienced a terrible loss, not the first this season. Dan, I'm sure you're enjoying United's
I've been in a good spot. Yeah, it's not been a bad couple of weeks.
Yeah. So we'll leave it there. So as Bill O'Hurley once said, and I say every week for some reason, and we'll join back again when something interesting happens in the football world.
We'll be back soon.